everyone, thank you so much for joining again. This is episode 9 of Someone Fix This. We're almost at like a full season.
I know.
And I got my Larry Miller back here, my father, my pal, my amigo.
Yes.
Last time I was on here, I was with Connor. So he is back here. And today we are going to be talking about kind of, mental illness, mental issues, maybe anxiety, depression, in a sense, spiritual warfare that might be weird or maybe controversial. And we want to dive into that because I think a lot of times the church doesn't really talk about that too much. And it's things that I like to talk about because it's always going on with somebody. Everybody's always anxious.
Someone fix this.
Someone fix it, right?
How do we, I don't know. Can we fix it?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Before we get started, I've been on an 80s kick. And I was watching some good 80s movies. So if anybody has any recommendations, I just watched License to Drive. And I also watched, what was the one I just said, the vampire one? Lost Boys.
Lost Boys, yeah.
Which was a good movie.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
It's a classic, but it's a classic cult classic.
What is some of your favorite, or what is your very favorite 80s movie of all time?
80s movie. Oh my gosh.
Like,
I don't know.
I would think.
Dude, I love Back to the Future.
Yeah, Back to the Future.
That's it. That's probably one of my favorites.
In my top.
I mean, there's
3.
a lot of great ones. Terminator, Predator, Top Gun,
Ferris Bueller.
Oh,
which is in my. I think those 2 are my favorite.
Yeah.
Back to the Future. But I'm curious if anybody
Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club, 16 Candles.
Yeah,
like I've seen most of those.
Such good stuff.
And stuff. But I'd never had seen Lost Boys stuff. Anyways, if you guys got any good
stuff that makes you happy.
Yeah. I love the 80s.
So you're not
depressed.
Love the
80s.
So you're not depressed.
That's right. That's
right. Anxiety and depression.
Right. Anxiety and depression.
Running rampant.
Let me ask you this first question. Do you think that anxiety and depression is, I guess, how would I put this? Is anxiety and depression being dealt with the way it should in church? Do you think it gets talked about enough? Do you think it gets talked too much? Do you think there's a lot of unknowns about it? Yeah. Because I feel like, I'm not knocking anyone. When I go to church a lot of times, I don't get to hear about, it's like I don't get to hear about things that are going on in the world very much. And I feel like everybody that's coming to church, for the most part, we're all seeking something. We all are seeking help, right? Guidance.
Right.
We need help. And I think, majority of people, everyone deals with anxiety eventually. You may not, be every single day of every hour, but there are people that are like that. But I guarantee most people that come to church have dealt with anxiety, depression, hurt, loss, confusion. I don't know. What do I do next? I don't know what I'm doing. And, other people, I haven't left the house in 3 months, so I'm just going to stream church online or whatever.
Yeah.
So
happens.
Do you think we talk about it enough, or what is your take on that?
Maybe we do. Talk about it. I'm not sure. Well, first of all, I want to back up and say, if you're watching, and anything that we might say, just know that there's no judgment here. We know that people have anxiety. We know that people have mental illness. We know that people are stressed. We know that people have, are bipolar, whether you're a Christian or not. Yeah. Now, whether or not it's talked about in the church, I know just from my experience at times at some churches, we have to look at is it just a medical? Is it just mental illness? Is anxiety, stress, bipolar? Are they all just medical, or is some of it medical, but some of it spiritual? Mm-hmm. And again, goes back to how do we get to a place of trying to move forward and fix this in our lives because of everything that is happening, right? So, but what I've seen, to answer the question about it in the church, I've seen sometimes, depending on where you go to church, you can go to a church that believes that it's just all spiritual, and all you got to do is pray. Just pray, and it's gone.
Right.
Well, it's not gone.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I went down front. 35 people laid hands on me. People might have or might not have spoken tongues. People praying with all they had, as fervently as they could, and prayed and believed and cried and bawled and squalled. And you walk out of the building and you're still depressed.
Yeah.
You wake up, or even you get in your car, or you get home or the next day and you're still depressed. So what we really desire, today is to try to conclude, is it all medical? I personally don't believe it is. What do you is it all medical? Is it all spiritual? What are your thoughts?
I would think that within the last, we'll just say 20 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
More so is there are possibilities of cases where people are just being fed medication, which some people need medication. I need medication.
Yeah, it's okay.
And there are times when they're like, just knock this person out, and it is something spiritual. I would completely agree with that. I feel like now that we have such medications now, people just want an explanation for everything. So somebody who's dealing with multiple personality issues, or just like you said,
right, bipolar
disorder and stuff like that, and that's a serious
highs
issue.
And lows.
And if you go to the doctor, and a lot of times you go, oh, yeah, you got bipolar disorder, take the meds, that's it, and you just, is there a chance to step back and go, is there something else though as well?
Right.
Is it possible that there is something else? Is there something else attached to the depression where, you're like, well, it just runs in my family, and things like that, which it does, and what is it? Like low melatonin or whatever
Correct.
It was.
Yeah.
Which that is accurate. But is there something more to what is causing
what's creating that?
What is creating it? Maybe someone will go, well, there's just absolutely nothing. There's got to be, it's stemming from something. Yeah. I know, because I've been in places where I've not left the house for like weeks.
Right.
On end, and I have no
desire.
That's
not like you,
and it's not like me, and I'm just like, I don't want to, like, I'm not leaving.
You know what?
I'm
maybe that's you.
Door.
Typing it. Messages. Let us know.
Maybe
is that
that's
you?
Because I've been there, and I've not showered, and I've just sat there, and I've just
don't care.
Watched. I do, like, literally not hungry, not whatever, and I just don't care. Like, people could be calling my phone, text me, I'm not answering, and it's because I'm like, I'm just not in it. I'm not in it mentally, physically. I'm drained, and I'm depressed. And I didn't know what to do. And I'm sure there's, people that are watching that feel that way. So what would you say? Because like you said, there will be people that will get up and go to church, and, they'll get prayed on for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And you wake up the next morning or whatever.
Yeah, just get over it.
And you're
man.
Just like, I still feel this way. Like, you told me that Jesus was going to take care of this situation, but here I am.
Just think good thoughts, man.
In my room,
just
and I'm
be
like,
happy.
just be happy, yeah. And you're just like, I don't
it's
feel
hard.
I don't feel happy, and it's really, really hard. So what would you say?
So I think that there's, I believe that there's a process. I believe that in a minute, and we'll talk about it, adding everything from positive things in your life. And I'm going to back up and say this, that without the fear, the fact of maybe ticking somebody off, and it might. What I do want you to think about in the fact of depression, when you're depressed, you are focused 100% on you.
On yourself. Yeah.
Because anyone and I've been depressed, and when I'm depressed or I'm with someone who's depressed, all that I tend to hear from me or that person is I, me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel this certain way. I feel a certain way. I feel poorly. People don't like me. Why can't? And it ends up being a self-centered focal. And we know that from a standpoint of following Christ said, pick up your cross and follow me. So it's never about you as a Christian.
Right.
So when you become self-centered, it's the polar opposite of anything that Jesus taught us to be following him.
Right.
So it'd be, we've got to learn to focus on others, quit focusing on ourselves, because I will tell you this, if you ever want to be depressed, take about 2 minutes and think about everything you don't have or everything you're not.
Yeah.
Or wish you were.
Right.
And it'll flip you right into depression. Mm-hmm. There's some things that we've got to do. Medication is okay. Prayer is very good, but I also believe that there's steps, and I want to use 2 things in the Bible, 2 stories.
Okay.
Number 1, and you and I talked about this at dinner tonight. One of our favorite stories is the man that was at the pool of Bethesda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just wrecks me every
and
time.
Yeah, it's great if you've seen The Chosen.
Oh man,
just a great scene.
Yeah.
Like bar none. If you haven't seen it, please watch it.
Go watch it.
And when you read the story about the man that was at the pool of Bethesda, Jesus approached him. And what's interesting, he first of all asked him a question that seemed like
ridiculous,
kind of
ridiculous.
Silly.
Right.
Right. Do you want
to
be healed or whole? And of course, the man at first did not answer the question, because what he did was, no, listen. He made excuses, and he didn't just answer the question. The question was, do you want to be whole? So the question tonight is, you have depression, you're bipolar, you're stressed, you have anxiety. Do you want to be whole? That not me is asking that, but God is asking that. Do you want to be whole? So the man wouldn't answer it. He made a lot of excuses.
Right.
Now, growing up in church, we've seen and we've read in the Bible where Jesus either touched somebody, prayed for them, put his hands on them, helped them. In this particular story, Jesus never touched him, never helped him up, never prayed for him. He said, do you want to be healed? Okay, that isn't what I asked you. Do you want to be healed? Finally, the man came around and said, well, yes, of course I do. And he said, pick up your mat and walk. So let's stop right there. Kind of, in the words of Furtick, savage Jesus, right? Is, Pastor Stephen, the savage Jesus. Jesus didn't say, let me help you up. Let me pray for you. Let me do anything for you. Let me touch you. He just said,
you do it.
Get up. You have to take a step. So there's a process, number one, right? In that story. So we know that the man had to get up himself. He had to do something. Right? So the second one is, it's not in a story, but it's in a verse where we all know this one. And the Bible says, this is the day the Lord has made. Stop. We stop right there. This is a day. That becomes a fact in our lives. That isn't something that I had to muster up or do. It's a new day, and it is said what it is. This is the day the Lord has made. Then it says, I will what? Rejoice. And I have to make a choice. Okay?
This is where you break down rejoice.
So to rejoice, this is the good part, is if you've ever rebooted your computer, right? Rejoice is joy. Rejoy. So every morning I have to restart my car. I don't leave it running, right? I don't go down to my car and it's already running. I got to restart it. Give the juice, the fuel, the electric, the battery. Boom. Hey, I'm started again.
Now you're good to go.
Reboot is like rejoice. Restart your car. My TV, I got to restart it. I got to turn it back on. And what the Bible is saying, I will choose to restart my joy today. And when we start doing these things of moving, quit waiting for Jesus to do something, and move into a space of that's going to help us mentally. Quit thinking about myself, pick up my cross, follow him. I know that there's chemical imbalance. I know there's medical. I know there's all of those mental issues and those things that are happening. But these are some of the things that if we start incorporating them, seek ye first in the morning, early in the morning, and get up. Say, this is the day. Can't change that. And I'm glad Jesus made a new day.
I like that. And I like how
choose
with the story of, if you haven't seen The Chosen, please go see it. When you get into a rut like that guy had been in, and just like I have been in, and just like anyone else, it's easy to blame everyone but yourself.
Yep. That's what he was doing.
What Jesus does is, do you want to be healed? And, he kind of goes around. And then the part that hits me, because it's so relative, is, I want to be healed, but these people over here, they have other people that are helping.
Oh, they get in first.
They get in first, and that guy's taller, so I'm not able to see as much. So he gets somebody to go on his shoulders. Well, I don't have anybody like that. And it's so easy to get in that rut. And you go, okay, back to a savage Jesus moment. Jesus didn't go, oh, like, you're right. You're right. I should have done this.
It's unfair.
That you're right. That isn't fair. And let me give you a hug. And man, I hope it gets better for you, or whatever. There's none of that. There's none of that. When he wants to heal him, it's pick up your. He has to start doing something.
Yes,
he has to, and then Jesus is able to take over in that situation. But it's when you say rejoice or rebooting a computer, for me, since I'm an IT person, and it's just like every day. You do it every single day.
Reboot.
So you can say, well, I, thought good thoughts and I prayed for a couple days and I rejoiced for a little, and then you didn't for,
well, it's kind of like refresh too.
And
you're
like,
when
okay,
you refresh something,
you got to refresh. Now all of a sudden it's faster. It works better. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, it's a rhythm that you have to get into even when you don't want to. And I have been there where I'm like, everything in your mental power is going, I don't want to do this. And maybe, I have anxiety and I don't want to leave the house. And how do I even do this? And it's just starting with those simple things is you have to do something and God will move on your behalf.
Yeah. It is such again, not to be offended, and I'll repeat it. It is such a selfish situation.
Yeah. Which is hard for them to
see. And it's hard to hear this.
You're already about yourself.
It's super selfish, which goes against everything in the Bible. Everything. Because everything in the Bible is sacrifice.
Right.
It's about sacrifice. So you might not want to hear that, but don't allow the enemy for you to focus on you all the time and not others. One of the best ways to be able not to focus on yourself is to actually start helping someone else, and you'll forget about yourself.
Which is crazy because you wouldn't think weird because you're like, I got to fix me first before I can even think about anyone else.
Right.
And it's absolutely the opposite.
Yep.
And you would be surprised.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And that's,
but his ways are certainly not our ways. And they're greater and better than our ways. But that's one way is to reboot, rejoice. Remember, this is the day.
Yeah.
I will choose to, it's a choice. It isn't something that happens. See, the day was made and that happened. That's just a fact. It isn't a fact that you are going to rejoice in it. You have to make it a fact and you have to choose. And there's some other things that we can do, which are really weird and they're very simplistic. And that is fitness. Get out and walk, work out, get up and move. Our bodies were meant to move. God created, well, we're just going to leave it. We're just going to roll with it. We're going to leave it.
Let's keep
going.
Wow. Now people know where we're
Never mind the man behind the curtain.
We weren't behind a brick wall.
And all that time, you see, it's a facade of your life.
Lord, God is good. Yeah.
That's right. But it's good. We're going to keep going. But fitness, taking care of your physical body. Listen, if you're eating sugar all day, there's a law in our bodies. And when we break that law, whether it's smoking, eating sugar, eating horribly, eating poorly, not drinking water, not moving, there will be a consequence paid for that can get us into a depressed state. Because, we work out. But then, I don't know, can you work out too much? I mean, right. What happens then?
Which leads us in. So before we go into the next area, the other part I was going to say is when you are working on those things, and I know this from a personal experience, is you'll be in a good little season there for about a week, and then you'll have a hiccup, and you'll start getting depressed again for 2 days. And then in your mind, and then what the enemy wants you to believe is, well, you fell off again.
Here I go again.
Why would you try? Why, you might as well just stop now because you did good for a while, but you keep messing up, and that's just who you are. And that's one of those things where that voice comes in your head, and it is a total lie from the enemy. And I'm telling you that just from me. I trust me when I tell you, and I know that that's true. And so when you do fall off and you don't rejoice or reboot, and you have, the next 3 or 4 days, or man, I just laid on the couch for 4 days straight and just watched TV because okay, let's reboot, keep it going, keep going, just reboot, keep going. I know it's hard, but the best thing is just keep going, keep rebooting, keep going, keep trusting God.
Never quit starting.
Never
remember
quit.
That's one of my things. It comes back up. Never, And another thing that will help. My pastor taught me this was I'll save notes or text that anybody sends me when it's encouragement. If it's not encouragement, I just throw it away. It's not going to help me. But when somebody sends me something that's encouraging, I put it in a folder. And when I get really, really frustrated, because I get depressed just like everybody else does, and I want to quit, I feel like, and at my age, that can play into it mentally, emotionally, these emotions that get us. And I'll look at that folder and I'll open it. And I'll start reading comments of like, hey man, thanks for making a difference in my life. You really helped my son. You really helped my daughter. Man, what you said to me, a year ago help me turn a corner. And when I read those, I'll put them back down and I'll say, I'm okay. You know what? This is just a bump in the road and I'm okay. Because the enemy will try to destroy all of us from doing well.
Yeah.
And so I want to encourage you to do that. Save text, letters, notes, anything that you can, save it.
Yeah, that's good.
But can fitness be an obsession?
So you go into mental, and like you said, getting up and moving around is very important. It is there. So even if you're not even into working out, it'd be good just to get up and go on a walk.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go outside, walk around in the kitchen, walk around in your room. Like there's no excuse. You can get up and walk around. That will help. You're the health person where it's like it releases
endorphins
in your mind. I mean, it is
the way we're created.
Fact. I mean, it's just we're supposed to be going, man.
Right. So if you like drugs, that's a good drug to be released in your body, man.
There you go.
Those endorphins going.
And that leads us into, because some people are super into fitness, and you were a personal trainer.
Yeah.
You were a bodybuilder.
Competed at a high level.
I love
bodybuilding,
basketball
powerlifting
and stuff. I just obsess over that stuff. And there's people I know that they run, 100 miles a week or 100 miles a week, and they just love it. They love talking about a lot, and it kind of becomes their personality a little bit, right? You can get obsessed with certain things. So as of recent, because back in my time when I was younger, since I'm old, pastors were overweight.
Just not in shape.
Bald like me.
Not in shape.
They're just not in shape.
They just wore bigger suits.
They ate good.
Yeah.
And that's
a lot of potlucks.
It's fine.
That can happen.
Right. But it's like, as of recent, there are pastors now where you're like, dude, these dudes are jacked.
Yeah. And
you can tell, if they wear a t-shirt or a polo or something, I mean, their veins are popping out. And you're just like, good Lord.
Yeah.
And one of the questions is it too much? Is it being that mentally obsessed with it, maybe as a pastor, as someone in church, does it go too far? Is it too much? So what is your take on that?
It's a good, because
you're the personal trainer.
There's so many. First of all, if you're out there already, if you're judging pastors, period, you should stop and spend that energy praying for that pastor.
Ooh.
If you think that they're doing something they shouldn't be, the Bible says pray for them, not judge them.
Yeah.
And we do that so quickly to look at a pastor and go, well, he must spend all of his time in the gym.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Right.
And well, that may or may not be true. That's between him and God. Pray for him. But the question is, can you become consumed with fitness, which can be just as bad emotionally, stress.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't end up being too much. And you're like, you're like mentally, if you miss a day or something like that, or, you went out and had Raising Cane's or pizza, and you're just like, I got to get, or a lot of people I know, like after Thanksgiving, they're like, that's it. Like, and then in the morning, like I'm getting up at 5 and I'm cranking it out. And you're just like, me not being a super, I'm like, okay, like you okay. And those are,
you become obsessed with, it was Paul that said bodily exercise profits little, but it does profit some. It's good. He also talked a lot about sports and racing. I ran the race and this and that and the other.
Yeah, and your body is a temple.
Your body, and you should take care of it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think anytime that it becomes so obsessive that if you miss, you're stressed. That's not good. Keep things in moderation.
Right.
Keep the main thing the main thing. The main thing is Christ. It isn't your body, but it's Christ. So we should do it in moderation and at a level that is honoring to God. If you can look in the mirror and say, God, the time, the energy, the money that I spend doing this and effort, am I really honoring you or am I honoring me? And now my identity has become wrapped up in this.
Right.
And when your identity becomes wrapped up in anything other than Christ, we're missing the mark.
Right.
And we all do it, whether it's in sports, whether it's in things, whether it's in our kids, whether it's in our spouse. He takes preeminence over that. So do I think that some pastors can be obsessive?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That might be all they talk about. They're wearing their shirts at the pulpit, and they're just pouring, screaming, jacked in this. And here's what I would say, not judging, and because I've competed, I think what would be good for a pastor that is jacked is to take the focus off of his physical visual sight of him, so that people aren't looking at his biceps, but they're hearing what he's saying.
Yeah.
Because you can be a distraction. You know, it's said that we know that the word says that man judges on the outside. Well, because he does do that, I think it's okay to be fit,
Right.
but you shouldn't be a distraction. So if you're sharing the word, you're preaching, I think preachers should dress, you know, as modest as possible. Take the focus off of them. I think it should be cool because since men do judge you from the outside, I want to draw them in.
Right.
So if they think, hey, he looks good, he takes care of himself, I'm going to listen. I'm going to lean in, but I don't want to be a distraction.
And that can be hard.
You know, it can be
because
really
I feel
hard.
like everybody knows I like Stephen Furtick. Not that I agree with everything, but like there's certain shirts that he like his like shoulders and arms, and like I can't help it. But the whole time he's talking, like
you got a man crush.
I'm
on
like,
the guy.
look at this dude's arms. Like I know those dude's triceps. Like
I'm like, and in the meantime, he said something. You're like, I don't know what you said.
I missed it,
bro.
My dude's jacked.
I was admiring.
I'm over here
triceps.
texting my dad, and I'm like, I think he's on the juice. Like, you know, and it's just
So we pray. What we do is that we pray for a pastor that we think is spending too much energy or too much time. But to deep dive into the question, can fitness be too obsessive? Absolutely. It can become our life, control our life in anything. Alcohol, drugs, an obsession. When it starts controlling our lives, we want it to be part of our lives. It's like getting up and taking a shower. It doesn't, hopefully you take a shower at least once a week, if not once a day.
Yes.
It shouldn't consume me. I just take a shower. And neither should fitness. It should line into your life where it's just part of it. It doesn't control it, because then it starts controlling our emotions.
Right.
And our emotions are key. And here's why they're important with a quick story is that, you know, Jesus told his disciples he was going to send them out by twos, right? And he's smart in doing that for a number of reasons. For a covering for each other.
Right.
For protection.
Right.
To make sure that if something was said, he could say, no, that isn't what was said, for protection, safety, so on and so forth. But he also sent them out because he knew emotionally they were going to be distressed, depressed. Because here's what he told him. He got ahead of it. He went way up ahead of this. Jesus told his disciples, you're going to go out and you're going to preach the gospel. And they're like, this is going to be awesome. People are going to receive this. They're going to love this. We're going to be like rock stars.
Right.
And Jesus goes,
hold on.
Hang on a minute. I want to give you some advice so that you're not depressed. Not everyone is going to receive this word. And when they don't receive it, hey, kick the dust off your feet.
And go.
See, Jesus was getting at, he knew what they were going to need. And he said, hey, don't worry about it. Kick the dust off your feet and move to the next city.
Next city.
Why? He was protecting them emotionally of getting depressed and going,
like, dude,
nobody
in
the whole city. No one even cares. We want to keep doing this. Jesus gave them encouragement on, hey guys, when this happens, but remember, they had to do something. He didn't say, I'll just make you feel better. He said, no. Rejoice, reboot,
keep on going,
kick the dust off your feet, and just keep going.
Good.
So for your depression, someone fix this. Hey, depression, anxiety has no place. God can take care of it, but there's some things that we've got to interact and do to make a difference in our own lives before we can make a difference in others.
That's really good. And in closing too, what's good about that story too is, you know, Jesus always does things. It's never by accident.
Savage Jesus, man.
It's always something you're going to have to read like 90 times over and you might not get it, but also sending them off in twos, which is really important, is you need another person.
Absolutely. You need someone with skin on, man.
And you're, you know, you have anxiety and you're stressed and then you just lock yourself in your room. you need someone else. As much as you don't think you do, or
Yeah.
as much as you
Yeah.
think, I don't want to talk to nobody.
Yeah, because the enemy will
There's
try to have you
he's
be
like, you don't need
alone.
anybody, you just need to be alone. One of the worst
Yeah.
things you can do when you're
Yes,
depressed
sir.
is being alone. And sending them off
Yeah.
in twos, I think he could have known too.
Yeah.
If someone gets down, there's always the other person
Like,
going,
hey, buddy.
man, we got to keep going though. We
Well,
gotta
think
keep
about Paul
going,
in prison
you know?
with people that he was with. I'm sure that there were times that they encouraged one
When you're
another.
like, man,
when
I'm
it
not
says
doing
that they
this,
did.
you know, and you're like, wow,
That they
really
sang
good.
songs and started encouraging one another.
Right. So it's
Woo!
just like it's
That's good
important.
stuff.
It's important
Yeah.
to at least just reach out even when you don't want to, whether it's a text or a phone call. It is so important to have a friend, mom, dad, grandpa, whomever it is that maybe you feel
Yep.
like you can trust. Reach out. And if you can't reach out to anybody, reach out to me. Okay.
Yep.
So I think that's it.
Yeah,
I think
hope
we're-
you
I think
enjoyed
we're
it.
Good.
Hope this
Sorry
is
about the
helping somebody.
malfunction.
Yeah,
But now
it's
you know
real,
what's
man.
behind
We're
the
real.
brick.
Yeah. And I'm
so-
not stressed. I'm not
yeah,
depressed.
But we're not going to worry about
That's
it.
right.
We're not going to stress about it. So thank you guys so much for joining. I hope this helps somebody today on Someone Fix This. Have a good evening, guys.